Hi Lotus family, welcome to our channel where we talk about everything to do with educational support. So on this week's episode, I decided to show you guys my face because I'm going to be telling you a personal story. So that's part of the lesson for today. So I thought, I might as well show you how I look instead of always just, sending you voiceovers. So the topic for today is how to deal with panic attacks and anxiety attacks during exams, right? And I'm sure all of us have experienced this. So some have experienced it to the greatest level. Some of us haven't really experienced it that much. But chances are, if you've had to write an exam, you felt scared, whatever the case is. So I have a story about this. I still remember the day, right? So I remember quite well. I was in grade 8 and I was a very shy kid, very shy, and I had no confidence in myself and I had a very low self-esteem. So that affected my performance at school and it affected the way I viewed myself, right? So because of that, I was always just scared when I had to write a test, whatever the case is. And I remember for this one particular test, it was a maths test. I prepared very well, even though I didn't understand a lot of topics. I prepared, and I remember I went into that test feeling very scared, right? So I thought, it's just nerves. And I started writing the paper, did the first question, did the second question, and then when I was on the third question, right, I started freaking out. So my heart started beating very fast. I remember that. I started sweating. I started breathing heavily. So now you can imagine we're in a test, right? We're writing a test, and now all of a sudden I'm just freaking out. So now it was quite a scene, right? So I started breathing heavily, and like everyone could hear me, And because of that, I had to be taken out of the class, and I went to the sick bay and they calmed me down. I drank some water and they just told me that I just had an anxiety or panic attack. But to cut the long story short, I failed that exam because I couldn't go back for that test. So I couldn't go back to the test because I had left, right? So I failed that test, and that really affected my marks because it was a very, very big test, right? So it was not a nice experience for me, and I remember that quite well. And I remember that it may have never occurred to that level ever again, but I still remember that throughout high school and throughout university, I used to get scared when I have to write a test or exam, whatever the case is. And sometimes I remember quite well that when I was scared, I would literally forget everything. You know how you have crammed and you know what you're writing, you know what you're talking about, right? And when that test comes, it just doesn't, like, you just stress and all the information just disappears. So that's exactly what used to happen to me, and I used to hate it quite a lot. So I decided that I need to find a way to manage this, because I can't be studying and then getting panic attacks and just forgetting everything, like I can't be working hard and failing, So I just started to have a conversation with myself. So that's the first thing I did. I decided to have a conversation about myself to kind of trace back where the problem is, why I was feeling this way. So the first thing I did was I realized that I had a low self-esteem, and I decided to work on that, right? So how did I work on my self-esteem and boost my confidence? The first thing I did is I started focusing on positive things about myself. So I started doing things that were naturally good to me, and being with people that just boosted my confidence in general, So an example is I started playing a lot of sports because I was quite good at sports. Back then I was quite good at sports, so I started playing a lot of sport. I started reading quite a lot. I started spending a lot of time with myself. I started killing off negative thoughts about myself and affirming myself, right? So I decided to work on my confidence like that. And that was kind of the first step to kind of helping me work on my panic attacks and just panicking in general when I have to write a test or whatever the case is. So I had to boost my confidence, right? So I suggest that if you have had this experience, then the first thing you should look at is, are you actually confident in yourself, right? Because if you're not confident in yourself, then chances are you're going to panic, right? You're going to panic because you think you can't do the task. And that was with me. And I remember for that maths test that I told you about, I panicked because I didn't understand anything that was happening, and I had no confidence, and yeah, things just happened in that paper. And then the second thing I did was I tried to monitor the triggers, right? So I asked myself, what are the things that cause the panic attacks, right? So for me, whenever I felt unprepared for a test, whenever I thought or I felt like I didn't understand a certain topic, or whenever I felt overwhelmed with the work, I knew that in the test I was going to panic, right? And I was going to forget everything. So that was my trigger. For some people, the trigger may just simply not be eating in the morning. So if you have a test and you don't eat, that literally could be your trigger, right? It could be a trigger. Or like if you have a fight and you're not emotionally well, that could be a trigger. So that's the second thing I did, right? I started tracing the triggers so that I could know what causes me to relapse or what causes me to panic so much. So then with that, I started making sure that I understood everything. So that literally meant that I became a teacher's pet, right? So if I didn't understand a topic, I will definitely ask. I may not necessarily ask in the class, but I would make it a point that I ask after class. I started consulting quite a lot. I started making sure that I'm prepared for my tests and exams. And for topics that I couldn't do by myself, I made sure that I get a tutor or get someone to help me with the topic, if it couldn't be my teacher. And there are a lot of tutors available out there to help you with work. So yeah, I decided to get a tutor whenever I didn't understand the topic, and that really helped me because it boosted my confidence in the subjects and in the topics in general. So that's what I did prior to getting into the exam. So those are the two things I did. I worked on my confidence and I monitored the triggers and I worked on them, right? So now my question is, how did I manage that in the exam? So let's say I got the panic attack in the exam, right? So the first thing that I did is I developed a very good breathing technique. So let's say I'm writing a test and then I don't understand a question and the panic is coming. So what I do is I start breathing slowly, right? Breathe in and breathe out very slowly, right? Until I've controlled my nerves, right? Where I could, I'd close my eyes. So I close my eyes and I just breathe in and breathe out, right? And once I've really calmed down my nerves, what I would then do is just repeat affirming words to myself, internally. I can't obviously be saying things out loud. So I'd kind of affirm myself internally as I'm breathing slowly in and out. And for me, that was a form of meditation that helped me really calm down, affirm myself. And then the second thing that I did was I tried to do, in fact, not that I tried, I did all the questions that I was familiar with first. So whenever I opened the paper, I just decided to do the questions that seemed very easy for me first. And then all the questions that I knew were going to make me nervous, I did them last. So I just tackle all the ones that I did not, that I understood quite well first, nailed them, and that kind of boosted my confidence in general. And then the questions that I was not so confident about, I'll just do those questions last. So that's the second thing I did, right? The third thing is I made sure that I'm very focused. So before I write my test, right, I kind of gather my thoughts, I tell myself to focus, and I know what I'm about to do, right? So that when I'm in the test, I'm not really like my mind is not everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I'm focusing on the question. If I'm doing a question, that's the only thing I'm focusing on. I'm not thinking about the dishes I have to wash after this, or the Netflix I have to be binging on after that. So I'll be very focused on the exam, on the task at hand, and get it over and done with. So those were the 3 techniques I developed when I am currently experiencing the panic attack. And I think that is what worked for me. That's what worked for me. These are very personal tips, I guess, and you can do whatever works for you. I would like you guys to share your experiences on the comments tab. Tell me how you have managed your panic attacks, because I'm very sure I'm not the only one. And when I say panic attacks, I'm not saying that you run out of the exam room and you can't control yourself, whatever the case is. It may just simply be you forgetting everything you have crammed, well, not necessarily cramped, but worked hard for. Like, you get in there and you just become flustered and you can't think anymore. That shouldn't happen, right? So if you have experienced that and you have found techniques on like how to stop that from happening, then let's start a conversation in the comments tab. Let's share knowledge, let's help our students, because we have overcome this. For me, it worked, and I can say that I nailed most of my exams and all of that. And it's not because I'm like super smart or anything like that. I just had good techniques, you know what I'm saying? And I suggest you guys try it out. If you have panic attacks, then try out the methods that I have given you. All right, guys, so that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed the chat. I hope to catch you guys next week. Please subscribe and like and share, and just spread the word. That's it from us. Bye.